Pastor Terry is ending a time of sacrifice today, and I want him to say a word to you.
When we think of our vision for our church, it's to be a 21st century apostolic church in principle, practice, and power. We look in the Word of God, and our vision, when we were writing that, I really didn't even think this part of it, but it speaks of a process. Because first of all, we must get the principles, the apostolic church, and it won't be good enough just to know them, but we must practice them. And when we know them and we practice them, then there's no other ending to that but power. It speaks of process. Jesus just performed so many miracles in his ministry. One thing he could have done that he never did was laid his hand on a baby, prayed, and it became an adult. There is a process to everything. Pastor was talking this morning about foundation, and whenever he started speaking about foundation, my mind went to a saying that I've said many times: you never set a skyscraper on a shack foundation. In the 11th grade, I changed schools. I went from a public school to a Christian school. Loved it. It was a great experience. I was amazed the first day of my testing because they gave me a diagnostic test in math and they gave me a diagnostic test in English. I was in the 11th grade. I opened the math up and it said count 1 to 10. I raised my hand. I got the lady. I said, "Did you give me the wrong book?" She said, "No, just keep going." How it was designed to take me from the very basic of math on to where I couldn't do it. There was a point that I just couldn't go any further. I just had to turn the book in. Through there were some gaps. So when I started in the 11th grade, I was an 11th grader. But I had to work out my gaps, because there were some gaps in my learning that had to be worked out. I feel that God is calling us to remain where we are, but fill in some gaps. Now, it's one thing for us to walk into this building because we immediately walk into a spiritual skyscraper. Because we have the right foundation here. Not bragging, just stating facts. We have the right foundation here. I don't want to just be powerful inside this building. Not just inside this building. Here's what I feel like God's doing. When you talk about foundations, you drive by a building, you see these beautiful structures. I've seen some beautiful structures in my travels lately, and I've just been amazed. I drove away from there, and I never one time thought about the foundation, because you don't see it. I think what God is doing is God is telling us to pull away, not from the church, stay connected corporately. But I think God's trying to pull us away to work on some things in that foundation that can't be seen. It can't be seen by anybody else. There's an individual work that has to be done. Then we come together corporately. I do believe this is going to be a great year. I can't tell you how I believe this is going to be a great year. But the church is strong. But we must be individual skyscrapers. We won't be skyscrapers overnight. So those of you that are frustrated in this point of your process, cut the frustration. God knows where you are. That song we just sang about grace, God has grace to help us fill in our gaps, to be very strong foundationally, to where we can go very, very high in Him, not just to be seen. But you can put a whole lot more people in a skyscraper than you can a shack. You can accomplish a whole lot more in a skyscraper than you can a shack. And I believe that God's calling on us. Come aside, tune in our ears, and we will be 21st century. Apostolic Church. God wrote Himself in flesh. He came to earth to establish a church. And it's going to be done His way. and I believe we're yet to see, an apostolic church like God intends. We want to be that church.